right, well, good morning, Facebook land. Welcome. How you doing today? So I want to talk today about something really, really important. I'm talking about something really, really important. Um, as you can probably see, I still have a little bit of a black eye from incident this weekend, which I'm going to share about in a moment, um, which I'm still really recovering from. And today I want to talk about anger and I want to talk about men and emotions, but it's really not just about men, it's about all of us. And I want to talk about some of the things that keep us disconnected from our loved ones and from ourselves on deeper levels, and that really become a challenge in personal relationships. Because at the end of the day, I'm here to help people create a life with more freedom inside themselves and inside their relationships, inside families, inside communities, and more overall love of self, love within communities, love of family, love in love relationships and romantic relationships. And so I titled this particular video, Daniel Pink, A Bike Theft, A Cracked Skull, and Guard Dog Emotions Beyond EQ. And I'm going to talk about all that really and make it make sense and tie it all together for you. But before I get going, I just want to share that whether you're watching live or in the replay, let me know you're here and also share something that you're grateful for. I'll share in a moment about this incident where I had this hammock accident earlier this over the weekend in a cabin trip, and I still have a bit of a black eye. I have some pain in my face and in my head, and I'm overcoming it. I feel 1,000 times better today than I did yesterday, but I'm finding that people sharing gratitude and sharing things that they're joyful about literally helps me feel less pain. Joy, gratitude, positivity literally has a huge effect on my pain tolerance and pain level. I'll teach about that another time. I have a whole story about a kidney stone in an emergency room, waiting room, and how I learned to transform pain through the mind. But anyway, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Thanks for saying hi, Jared. Yeah, I got a little bit of a shiner still from this accident over the weekend, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I'm going to get into it here. And what I want to talk about is, I think, very, 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 very important. So if you're somebody who absolutely positively has noticed that anger or frustration, either within themselves or within people that they're in relationship with, maybe this is you, or maybe it's a boss, or maybe it's a parent, or maybe it's one of your kids, or maybe it's a partner or a loved one or a close friend that you've known for many years or sibling. If you find that anger and frustration is a problem in your relationships, either you act in ways that you don't want to because of anger, frustration, or maybe you hold a lot of resentment within yourself that you keep to yourself, or there's people in your life that are very irritable and hard to deal with because it seems like they're angry or frustrated a lot of the time, then I want you to go ahead and keep listening and keep watching. So I had the beautiful privilege Thursday of being on this wonderful, wonderful, beautiful online event through this group that I'm in, Cadre, that you hear me talk about all the time. And the event actually had Vivek Murthy, who is the author of this book, Together. He's the former Surgeon General of the United States, and he's on this book tour being interviewed by various people. And on Thursday, it was Daniel Pink interviewing him, the famous author himself, and about the idea of togetherness. And in fact, that loneliness or isolation is one of the hugest public health challenges of our time. And it's the one that is not being talked about that often. Now, I personally experience this quite a bit because I do a lot of work with men, and men, even when they're surrounded by family and surrounded by community, can often feel lonely. They can often feel like they can't share the challenges they're experiencing, or the depth of their emotion, or the confusion, the complexity that they're in. Men are often isolating even when we're surrounded by those that we love, and we feel lonely, and it's channeled into addiction and behaviors that we just aren't very proud of and that aren't very healthful for us. But even with people who feel like they have really full and rich lives, togetherness is something that can heal us. So Vivek is on this book tour trying to help us understand that divisiveness and loneliness are huge public health issues. And it was talking about men in particular. And so they were talking about men and how men actually are often showing up with irritability, especially older men, irritability, frustration, anger, resentment, And those are truly signs at times, not always, not exclusively, not universally, not globally, but they're signs at times that a man is actually experiencing something much more complex, that they might be lonely. And so people were asking all these questions in the chat box about loneliness and anger and irritability in men. And I have a lot of experience here. And I made this comment, and Daniel Pink read it, and it became the topic of discussion between him and Vivek for several minutes. And essentially, the comment was, I've noticed that with a lot of people, but especially men, that anger or irritability can act like a guard dog emotion. That it can act like a guard dog emotion. That it's an emotion that actually jumps up and guards deeper emotions, usually related to confusion, loss, fear of loss, fear, and simply just sadness, pure sadness, grief. Because as men, whether it's nature or nurture, we're often not very good at experiencing and understanding complexity of emotion. We are often avoiding confusion. We're often avoiding looking like we don't know. We're often avoiding looking vulnerable. We're often avoiding saying that we miss someone or that we have longing or there's a piece of our heart that isn't quite touched and tickled and opened up and exposed in a beautiful way. We're not used to admitting these things that we don't know, that we're sad, that we're confused, that we're fearful, but we experience all of it because we're humans. And in fact, the more we can experience it, the more we can embrace them, the more we can integrate them and learn from them, the more we become a student of the complexity of our emotions, the more skillful and masterful we are at actually moving from a place of powerlessness to a place of power and doing the thing that we think that we're doing when we're being stoic anyway. We think we're being powerful. Now, I don't want to get up too far up on a tangent, but I want to give you examples of how this shows up for me and examples of how it shows up for others. What I want you to keep listening for is ways that it resonates with you. When does this actually get your way? When do you have these experiences where you either repress anger by trying to be positive or stoic, or when have you actually assumed that other people's anger is just them being a jerk, or they're just irritable, or they just don't know how to talk to people, etc. And we judge them and we create disconnection. So let me lay out the scenarios. So on Friday, I come outside, as some of you may know because you've seen I posted about it and my partner Natalie posted about it, and I find that my bike had been stolen. And I was experiencing a lot of complex emotions. First, I was in denial. I kept checking my basement to make sure it wasn't there. I checked my car to make sure I didn't leave it there from the previous weekend, which didn't make any sense. I checked outside again. I looked all over the place. And then when I realized it was really gone, I felt very sad. The truth of the matter is I've done tons of work to open up connection to sadness. So like usually anger isn't the gateway for me. I've learned to connect to sadness without it. But anyway, so I expressed to my partner I was sad and a text message, and we don't live together yet. And so then I went outside to take pictures in the rain of where they vandalized the house to take the bike, and I started to get really angry. I started to get angry that we have such inequity and injustice in this world that somebody needs to steal from another. I started to get angry at myself for having left it out. There were 3 or 4 times over the last couple of days I said to myself, I should put this bike away. It doesn't need to be outside. I have a basement for a reason, blah, 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 blah. I got angry because I thought I was being lazy. Really, I was just being distracted. There was a million things I was trying to do last week before I took off for this vacation. And anyway, so then I'm experiencing all this anger, and that's the moment when my partner Natalie calls to try and help me and be soothing. And I am angry, and I notice that I'm starting to get irresponsibly frustrated with her, even for trying to help. So I was cool enough to slow down and say, babe, I'm angry right now. I'm angry at myself. I'm angry at everyone in the world. I'm just frustrated. I need to get off the phone with you and cool down, and then we can talk, because I am feeling a lot of complexity and a lot of sadness. But right now, I just feel anger on the surface, keeping me from those harder emotions. That was a moment of what I would call emotional competence, at least, or emotional mastery. Emotional intelligence isn't good enough in those moments. And emotional intelligence is what we're taught, especially as men, to learn, to be, and to do, and to show up with, and to cultivate in leadership, in a business setting. Emotional intelligence says you don't actually show your anger in that moment. Emotional intelligence says you repress your anger so that you don't impact others. And emotional intelligence might say that you go and you mine for the anger and you understand what's important, etc. But the reality is the core work in emotional intelligence that many people have adapted, but was originally done by Daniel Goleman, literally teaches people how to not be irritable, how to not be angry in the workplace. It literally teaches us that we need to have management or control of our emotions, and that's emotional intelligence. And I want to tell you that that's not enough for deeply beautiful and transformative relationships. It's not enough for transformation within yourself. It's not enough for deep transformation of your personal relationships. It's not enough for growth into something beautiful and powerful in your family. It's not enough to understand yourself or understand each other more. So essentially, in that moment, I needed to tap into the competence mastery that I built around emotions so that I didn't A, fuck up my relationship, and B, so I could actually feel more connected to her and move more quickly into a place of calm because I allowed myself to feel the anger and then I allowed myself to feel the sadness so then I could take the actions I need and still do good work in the day. So that's one example. Then I noticed all this joy and this gratitude show up because I allowed the sadness and the anger to flow, and I had a partner that I could share it all with without instead of hiding and repressing it. Now, additionally, over the weekend, I got cracked in the skull really hard by a wooden beam. And yesterday, I'm feeling some effects of a concussion. I'm a lot better today than I was yesterday, but yesterday I was actually confused. I couldn't get focused. I thought I would work. I basically couldn't work. I tried really hard, but I was emotional. I couldn't focus and I was frustrated. And I found myself getting frustrated with myself. And again, anger and frustration and irritability was the guard dog here. Now, the reality is I was sad that I feel like I lost momentum in my business because I was on fire last week. I was sad that I had to reschedule with some clients, and that actually makes next week and the end of this week even harder for me. I was sad that I wasn't feeling creative and I wasn't feeling lit up and I was feeling lost. But my initial emotion was irritability, frustration, and anger with myself. Again, all because of this head injury, this cracked skull, this pain. I was frustrated, like I should be able to play through the pain better, et cetera. All these tropes that we're taught to be stoic as men in this world. And so I want to tell you that it took me a long time, to understand how to allow my emotions to show up. When I was married and I was younger, I used to think that emotions were bad, that negative emotions, that fear, that anger were bad. I was in a toxic negativity state. And so I created toxic positivity and I repressed anger and I repressed sadness and I repressed frustration and I focused on using positivity. And in many ways, it helped me save my life, but it actually wasn't quite enough to create meaningful relationships. And in many ways, I was still warring with myself. I'm supposed to be this stoic man. I'm supposed to be this emotionally masterful, intelligent man. I don't let anger, I don't let frustration enter my conversation, my relationships. I manage it myself. I move through it so no one else can see it. That was what I thought I needed to do to be liked, to be loved, to create a positive relationship. I thought I had to be bulletproof. But what I learned is when I repressed my anger, when I repressed my sadness, when I repressed my frustration, I repressed my joy. I repressed my ability to be empathetic and compassionate with others. I repressed meaningful moments in intimate relationships with my partners. I judged other people that had other gateway emotions like fear, or they would hide, or they would act confused or overwhelmed. I thought people weren't powerful enough, or strong enough, or grounded enough, or reliable enough. I would really judge people that were still negative and who were like frustrated and irritable. I thought they were like weaklings of willpower, that they had no mindset mastery, and that they just didn't care about having important relationships in their life. And I screwed myself up. I lost a lot in the process. So, what all of this for me is to say that we have to go beyond emotional intelligence. It's time to get to something deeper. I've called it emotional competence in the past, I've called it emotional mastery. But to me, it's where we learn to understand and feel our emotions, and we use that information to create more effectiveness, more efficiency, to create more connection, to create more meaningful moments with ourselves and with our partners. That moments that we used to be stoic and avoid and repress become moments of liberation of ourselves and in our relationships and with the people that we love. So many of us have done this. In fact, I think we've all done this. If you're watching now or you're watching later in the replay, I want you to go ahead and chime in and let me know. Just comment me. When have you in the past tried to repress anger and be positive or be stoic? When have you assumed that the guard dog emotions, either in yourself or in another person, was just that person or yourself being weak or irritable or a jerk? When have you allowed judgment of people's guard dog or immediate primary gateway emotion, like sadness or fear or anger or confusion or overwhelm or stress? When have you let that keep you from getting curious and creating deeper connection and deeper understanding with them? What does it cost you to have avoided wrestling with what's beneath the anger? What does it cost you when you tried to be stoic? What does it cost you when you created intentional disconnection with people that you thought were just irritable or jerks, or that you couldn't understand their surface level emotion, like anger? We've all done it. If you've done it, if you tried to repress anger, if you've actually told yourself that someone wasn't worth dealing with, or you didn't want to spend time with them because they were irritable, then I want you to put me in the comments. And this shows up for my clients all the time too. I'm constantly working with men that would be considered charismatic and emotionally intelligent in their 360 reviews, in their feedback that they get from employees and from partners, that they're someone who can be there and hold space and be compassionate and be empathetic, and they can talk about emotions, at least in some sort of intelligent way. But they don't necessarily always have the deeper connection that they want. They don't always understand people around them because they're used to actually repressing emotions like anger or irritability, or they're used to being calm and cool and collected and always being under control until they're not. And what they're used to doing is they're used to being able to apologize for getting angry, or they can own that they got frustrated or that they were like overwhelmed in a moment, but they don't necessarily go deeper to try and understand what's beneath the anger so they can actually get to a more profound place with people they work with, more creativity, more love, more connection, more courage, more curiosity. They resolve what's on the surface. They're good at that. They've been rewarded for that. It makes them valuable in their relationships and valuable at work, but they're leaving a lot on the table. So I'm very used to that. I had a client last week who he got angry with his wife. He told me about it, but usually he just handles it himself and he comes to her with a request of like, okay, in the future, I'd love this or that. And she's good at coming to him with requests. But what happened is he doesn't expose himself. She keeps accidentally hurting him and frustrating him because he's not sharing on a deeper level what value is important or what other emotions are elicited. He's not connecting with her and going deeper. He's just smoothing over what's on the surface. So if you're still watching, thank you so much. Whether you're watching live or in the replay, let me know you're here. Say hi, say what's going on. I want you to leave with this one takeaway. If you want better relationships, if you want a sense of personal peace, if you want to actually continue to be high performance without as much anxiety, as much high anxiety, as I like to say, and if you want to actually learn to integrate and change on a more rapid level so that you can be more liberated, more loving, have better relationships, have more power, more presence in your work as well, then it's time that you start going beyond the surface level of your emotional experience. It's time that you get to know your guard dog emotions, the emotions that keep you from understanding what's really going on with you at a deeper level. It's time that you learn to get curious about the guard dog emotions for your loved ones, for your romantic partner, for your spouse, for your kids, for your parents, for the people that you work with. It's time that you're willing to go deeper and get curious so that you can actually not just smooth things over on the surface, but be more co-creative in the process of moving through your different emotions. Hey, thanks, Josh. What, Paul? I see you showing a little brain or plus a heart. That's right. We're moving from the head to the heart here. So, what now, right? I've challenged you to go beyond emotional intelligence. I've challenged you to go beyond the guard dog emotions like irritability and anger, especially in men. But I see the irritability and anger being guard dog emotions more and more for women too, as they learn to integrate into a patriarchal world and create some personal and systemic power for themselves. So all of us have the opportunity to get to know our anger more, to get to know our fear more, because at the end of the day, they lead us to more understanding, they lead us to deeper relationships. So what now, Ray? All I want you to do is just for today, if you find yourself or someone that you're working with, maybe someone in your family, showing on the surface anger or frustration or irritability. So the next time you get frustrated or angry or irritable, or the next time somebody sends you a text message that looks irritable, or you go home, or actually you're probably home because it's freaking coronavirus, and you're home and your partner, you ask your partner a question and they're in the middle of work, so they get frustrated and they snap at you, or the kids are being overwhelming, so they say something not nice. Just for today, are you willing to ask a question? What's deeper? What's underneath this guard dog emotion? What could it be protecting beneath the anger, the irritability, or the frustration? Whether you're watching live or in the replay and you're willing to slow down and ask that just once about yourself or about someone you care about, just want you to comment below with, I'm in. Let me know you're willing to do this. And I want to thank you for being with me today, whether it was for 30 seconds or for 30 minutes. I don't know how long this is going because I'm kind of channeling and I'm off here and I'm feeling excited about the topic. But essentially, I want to thank you for being here. I believe that your time and your attention are the most important thing on the planet. I really appreciate you. Tomorrow, I'll be going deeper into this topic. I'll be going deeper into how we can get underneath the guard dog or the gateway emotion, and we can see what's going on underneath the surface. Both how you can do this with yourself and how you can do this with a loved one or a partner or someone you work with. So if you're not in Drop the Armor Dojo, reach out to me. I'd love to invite you. I'll put a link below as well. And I want you to remember, no matter what's going on in your world, no matter how you feel, no matter what you're experiencing, you can create the life that lights you the fuck up. I don't care if you have a great life and you're simply bored, or if you've never felt like you've really achieved what you wanted to, created what you wanted to in love and in career and in mission and in purpose, or with your body. I don't care if you've got everything in the world and you're just not fully lit up, or if you're still trying to create your world and you just haven't got there yet. You have the capacity to live a life that lights you the fuck up. You have a capacity to move from being a consumer of a life to a creator of a great life. And all it takes is to make choices. They're simple, but not easy. I want you to choose love over fear, courage over comfort, creation over consumption. And as you stack those choices day after day, week after week, you totally transform and create a life that you love. So thank you so much for watching, for being here. Hit me up with a comment if this resonates. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out.